Hello, everybody. I'm trying to put my headsets on here. They're all tangled up. Welcome to another Divine Masculine Conversation. I'm so beyond thrilled to be here today because today we are going to talk to one of the pivotal people on my journey, one of my mentors who actually helped me get to where I am today. Hey guys, welcome. So I'm just opening this space early to give us some time to get settled in and get ready for this amazing conversation we're about to have with Michael DeSanti. Those who don't know him, Michael DeSanti is the author of New Man Emerging. He's also a transformational trainer and speaker, and he's a men's coach. He also does women's work. He has retreats. He has men's groups. He is an incredible human being, and we have the pleasure of sitting down with him today live, one-on-one, to answer all your questions. I have tons of questions that have come in for Michael, so I'm super excited. So I'm just really thrilled that we get to, oh, there he is, perfect. So we'll just give it one more minute to let people come on in. And I'm just really thrilled and I feel really blessed and honored to be able to provide a space where we can we can bridge a gap between the genders, between male and female, and learn that feminine and masculine energies are energies that we all carry within ourselves. We each carry feminine and masculine energies within us. And if we're able to learn how to harmonize those energies and in turn harmonize our relationships with others and understand the energies within others, we're able to create harmony and peace on this planet. So that's my goal for these Divine Masculine Conversations. They have been amazing so far, and just knowing that today I'm sitting down with the Michael DeSanti, it's like, oh my gosh, like that's it. Like I could end the program today and I'd be happy, but we even have more people coming after Michael to talk. So this is going to be just incredible. So let me, without further ado, let's get started because you guys, I know you're all excited. You all have questions, and we are going with Mr. DeSanti himself. I'm so excited. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I just let him join. So let's see if he can log in. Great, there he is. Yay! Hi, hello.
How are you doing?
Oh my gosh, I don't know if you could tell with my energy, but I am through the roof right now. I'm like jumping out of my skin, excited.
I hope I do. How are you?
First of all, it's so amazing to see you. I haven't seen you in a minute. You know, we had a pandemic, the whole nine.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a year. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, at least a year. Just so you know, I'm getting a little bit of a delay on your audio. I don't know if it's the speaker or if it's, I don't know if you have headsets on.
I don't. Is that a little better?
That's a little better.
Okay. Let me see if I can adjust it a little bit. Okay. I hope that's better. I don't.
Good, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I think there's a little bit of a delay. So like when I talk, I'll wait to then hear you talk so that we could because I want to hear every single word you have to say today. And I'm sure everybody does too, because everybody's super excited.
Wonderful.
So Michael, first of all, I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for agreeing to do this, for taking time of your very, very busy schedule. I know you were traveling, you have men's groups, you have programs going on. So I'm just really grateful that you came on with us today. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. I love what you're up to, and I'm lucky and grateful and humble and blessed to be part of it and support you in what you're up to. So it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, amazing. And I don't know if you know this, but I'm just going to go ahead and tell you live on camera, but you are one of my mentors. And I've never really told you this, but we can have mentors without telling them. It's just people that we look to, And you were actually really pivotal in my journey to becoming a transformational trainer because I was about to give up. And I remember because you had come and visited my transformational, the classes that I was in, you had come and visited. And I remember you telling me, anytime, give me a call, anytime you need anything, let me know. And that one day I was literally sitting in a parking lot about to give up on everything. I was rock bottom. I was crying. And the only person I thought to call was you. And you spoke to me that day, and you literally walked me off a ledge. I was sitting outside a check cashing place or a cash advance place because I had run out of money and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was freaking out, and I was like, you know, in my shit, like we would say in the industry. I didn't know what to do. And I thank God every day that I called you, because I could have called anyone. I could have called my mom, which I usually do. But for some reason that day, I decided to call you. And let me tell you, Michael, I don't know what you told me. I don't even remember what you told me, but it was epic because it literally got me back on track. It reminded me what I'm up to. It reminded me what I'm here to do on this planet. And it got me back on track. And I really, really credit you for where I am today. So I really, really am grateful for that.
My pleasure. Do you know, I remember that conversation distinctly. That was 3 years ago, because I was driving. You just happened to catch me. I was driving from the east coast of Florida to Tampa. I was being interviewed on a podcast, and we just did the podcast 3 years to the day, which is about a week ago. And I remember you texting me, "Can I call you?" And I said, "Sure. I have 4 hours to kill. Try me." And I remember that, and the pivot and the shift that you've made from then till now is remarkable, and I credit you with all of it. So great job.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Wow. Yeah. Wow. 3 years ago, I didn't realize what the time was, you know?
3 years.
That's wow. Wow. Michael, just so you know, I'm still getting a little like delay on your audio. Like, I don't know, it's coming in and out. Like I'll hear some words and then I won't hear other words.
Okay.
I don't know if it's do you have headsets by any chance?
I don't. Not on me right now. I actually, for some reason, can't find them.
Okay.
Let me see. Is this a little better if I have it this way?
I can hear you now, but for some reason, like when we start talking, it tends to go in and out. And I just want to make sure. Guys, sorry, I'm pausing the talk right now for us to get a little bit of technical difficulty straightened out because I really want you guys to see and hear everything. Sassy says, so happy to see you together and sharing with love. Oh my gosh, so many people have joined. Matt, the Curious Micah's here. May Amazing, Lyra's here. Lourdes, my cousin, is here. Hi, guys. Let me see who else. Oh my gosh, so many people are here.
Oh, let me see.
Rosanna's here. Lisa Wildman. Oh, Miss Linda's here. Linda took my self-love program. Welcome, Linda. Powerful Jeremy's here. Solange is here. By the way, Solange said that she has her significant other that she wants to turn him on to your work. So I was like, girl, you better hear this live. Adali is here. Welcome, Adali. Oh my goodness, so many people. Okay, great.
Let's see.
All right.
Is this a little bit better?
The video is great. Let's see if the audio fixes itself. So I'm going to pray, divine, intervene, help us with our audio.
Please.
All right. Beautiful. Okay, so I always like to start the talk with you in your own words, just giving a little bit about yourself to the audiences out there that may not know who you are. They may be getting turned on to you for the first time. You know, who are you? What are you up to? I mean, I know everything about you, but I'd rather hear it from your words and allow them to hear it from your words. So take it away.
You may be better at explaining than me. So I am Michael DeSanti. I'm the author of a book, New Men Emerging. I am a personal men's fulfillment coach. I'm also a transformational trainer, and I also run a retreat business that brings growth-minded people to adventures throughout really the country, and now we're expanding throughout the world once everything lifts. So that's a little bit about what I do. I've been in the work of self-discovery, I could say, for a few decades now, and then made it my personal mission and purpose and career and platform over 12 years ago, and went through some shifts in my life and that have brought me here today. And I could say, in all honesty, I'm the luckiest and most blessed man I've ever met. And I get to do what I get to do and be with who I get to be with and be married to the woman of my dreams. And every day, every year keeps somehow getting better and better.
Amazing. I have the cutest dog.
Oh yes, my my assistant. She's here. She sits
Oh,
on
there she is.
for all my sessions and all my work. She's
She's keeping track of everything.
keeps track of my time for me
That's amazing.
for all my sessions.
That's amazing. Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. And so, just so you know, we've had tons of questions come in for this interview, but we'll save the questions towards the end. We'll cut off like maybe 15 minutes at the end to answer everyone's questions. But I just wanted to dive into the topic of the hour, the topic of the week, what everybody's been talking about and wanting to know about, which is the divine masculine. And this is like your realm. I invited you on here because not only because you're my mentor and you wrote this amazing book and you are amazing, but also because I see you as an embodiment of what the divine masculine is walking on this planet. And so I want everyone to hear from you. What would you define as the divine masculine in your words? And, there's no wrong answer, it just is what it is. Like, it's different for everyone. So in your own words, what's the divine masculine for you?
I would say masculinity in and of itself is divine. And I think that we have this idea, or even this departure from right now, we hear all these phrases like toxic masculinity. I think that's what needs to be redefined. Toxic masculinity is not masculinity. Toxic masculinity is immaturity, or it's a misuse of power. Because true masculinity in and of itself is divine. It's energy of integrity, of commitment, of consistency, of discipline, of structure, of reason, of honor, of trustworthiness. So to me, masculinity in and of itself and all those attributes and characteristics are divine in and of themselves. So divine masculinity to me is almost redundant. I think we need to start to redefine as toxic masculinity or boyishness or childishness and immaturity, because I believe that masculinity in its true form seeks to love and protect and to serve and to defend what's valuable and principled and honorable. So that in and of itself is a way of divinity.
Wow. That's why I look up to you so much, because, it's so true in society. We have departed ourselves from the notion of masculinity. Like, we've made it seem like masculinity is bad. It's a bad thing. And what you're telling us right now is that actually the essence of masculinity, who we already are, is divine. And that's so true. That's the essence of who we are. That's the purity of who we are. And it's like accepting that and embracing that for what it is and embodying that. And I love how you said what we really have to redefine is toxic masculinity, Wow. If you guys, start taking notes now, because that just I'm going to take like a week just to redefine that for myself in my own practice. So thank you so much for that. That was powerful.
Welcome.
And so let me ask you this, in your own journey, I'm sure you didn't wake up, or I'm sure you weren't born out of the womb and you're like, oh, I'm divine masculine and I know what that means, So kind of give us a little bit about what got you to where you are now. How did you become a trainer and what was your journey like?
Well, I think when I was young, I think some pivotal moments or life-defining events for me were, I grew up in a picture perfect house, 3 boys, mom and dad, black lab. And then when I was an athlete as a young man, and then I was injured and my parents divorced and my oldest brother left for college all within 2 weeks. And so my world kind of went upside down. My identity went up as an athlete went upside down. My family life went upside down. And I found for me that in this time when I was young, I was 14, I found in this chaos of life, I found a lot of comfort and solace in nature. I spent a lot of time when I was young with my father in the woods, and we would hunt and fish, and that's really where my father and I connected. And so when I was 14, I started to really seek this life of simplicity and living close to nature. And that's because it just brought me a lot of solace. And then I went away to school in Montana, and I lived in the Rocky Mountains for a few years, and yet and I studied a lot of Native American philosophy and principles, and yet in my 20s I departed from all that. I tried to suppress all that, and because I was promised wealth and fortune through corporate America and taking over a company when I was young, and I started to chase this proverbial carrot of, financial certainty and prosperity and wealth. And I noticed that as I went through that journey, there was a part of my spirit that was just numbing and deadening. And
Wow.
I remember I was dating a girl at a time, and I was stressed out and overworked, and I was only 27, 28. And she was going to therapy, and we were struggling, and she asked me to come see my therapist with me.
Oh, wow.
Therapist with her. I said, sure. I sat at the therapist, and I explained who I was and what I do, and all this pressure I'm under, and she doesn't get it. And I explained all this, and I remember I sat back and I thought, all right, so now you tell her what I just said so she gets it. And the therapist was this little older lady who was adorable, and she looked at me and she said, it must be challenging to have to deaden who you are to live the life you're living.
Oof.
And when she said the word deadened, it was like a rocket ship to my operating system.
Wow.
And since my parents divorced, this has got to be fast forward almost 15 years later, 12 years later, I had never cried. And I remember I started to cry the moment she said that. And the girl I was with at the time looked at me and was like, I don't know what to do. Didn't know what to do. And I remember I couldn't shake it. I couldn't shake this word deadened, because it nailed it so accurately that in order to operate in this sterile plastic facade of a world that I had, chosen to live in and try to be successful in, there was a part of me that I was deadening to do it.
Mm.
And after she said that, I think my whole life really began to shift into this, in the hero's journey, the first step is this call to adventure, this call to the unknown. And I remember thinking, like, I have to begin to live a life where I'm alive, and then where I'm purposeful and I have a function to fill, and that I'm impactful. And I remember at the time, as I was going through this corporate job, I remember having a conversation with my mother, and she said, what is it that you want? And I said, I want to become part of the solution. And right now I feel like I'm part of the problem.
Oof.
And that was a reality at that moment. And I had that call to adventure and all of that mess up and messiness and failure and all of it. I had to go through all of it to really find my own aliveness again. And I found it again through purposeful work and through reconnecting with nature and my own authenticity. And then I I found transformational work that my brother and my mother enrolled me into. And then my father passed away. And I remember that was a pivotal moment for me, where I remember, and I write about this in my book, I live by a philosophy: keep your death close. And witnessing my father pass away and holding his hand as he passed away, I remember thinking and saying to myself that when I die, I'm going to die on empty, with all my gifts given, with all my passions, fed. And I made this promise to myself that when I die, I'm going to die on empty, because I believe if death were close, we would all be living so differently. We would forgive faster. We would live rich and deep and meaningful lives. We would not hold grudges. We would do purposeful things that actually made an impact or a dent in infinity. I remember thinking, like, losing my father, watching him go, like, I know we all share this same fate, but how can I use this now to create urgency and deliberateness and purpose in my life? And so that's the, I guess, long answer to your question. And then from there, it's been, those pivotal moments have been what I call river changers. The river of life is going one way, and then it rapidly adjusts when we meet that grace that's offered to us.
Oh, beautiful. And the beauty is that you were open to the grace and you allowed yourself to listen to what the message was for you.
Yes, and not without pain.
Right. Oh,
You know, I had to go through some financial ruin and some hardships in relationships and bad breakups, and eventually I started to say, you know, I'm banging my head against the wall here. Like, maybe there's another way.
yes. I can totally relate. My life had to implode, so I could totally relate.
You know, that's part of the journey of, okay, well, what grace can I make of this challenge? And I think there's a part of us as human beings that we don't relate to perfection. We actually relate to our humanness. And part of our humanness and that spectrum of humanness is the triumphs and the challenges. And if you think about it, we praise the underdog and the person that overcomes, you know, difficulty and adversity, because that's what helps us grow and take on that next greater version of ourselves.
Exactly. Exactly. And at the end of the day, that's what life is really about. Life is about all the ups and downs and everything. So, wow, that's an incredible story. I've never heard it like, I've heard parts of it in different times that you've shared it, but I've never heard it like that all together. So that was amazing. But one question that comes up from hearing that is, when all these trials and tribulations were going on and like life was exploding and things were imploding and everything was just going chaotic, what was that thing, if there was a thing, that kept you going, that kept you moving forward, that kept you, going in the direction that you wanted to go in?
You know, there was a part of me, I think, always, no matter how much I tried to suppress it or quiet it, that there was a part of me always that deep down there was an intuition that there's so much more than survival and struggling. And I never really always had a clear picture of that, but I just always thought there's got to be more than this. Like, I can't have the odds of even being born are just completely miraculous. And I thought this would be a real sort of divine joke if we went all that to be born, and then now for 85 years or so, like, now struggle and white knuckle through it. Like, to me, that I always thought that seemed strange. Like, I don't know if that's really what God wants for me. And then, so I always had this innate knowing or intuition that there's more to just surviving. And I can't tell you that I've always been clear about exactly what that looks like, but by doing a lot of, inner work and personal work and always using that personal work with an intention to serve, there's been such a depth to my life that of fulfillment that through service and through impact and through contribution and through power with rather than power over. And I think that's what always kept me going, is this voice that said there's more than this. And as I've sought that out and journeyed through, and I now live like, how dare I ask for more? Like, I
Wow.
say, like, we have this moment, my wife and I typically, where we sit in our backyard in Miami, or we're in the mountains in Montana, and we just sit there, and we'll all of a sudden, like, get quiet, and one of us will just be like, how dare I ask for more? Like, this is amazing. Just to be alive and look up at the sky and be able to do what we do and love how we love. Like, I would be selfish to ask for more, and yet more keeps coming. It's amazing. Like, this abundance that we have access to. And the more and more grateful we are, it's like the more and more we continue to receive.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And the chat is going berserks. Everybody's so aligned with what you're saying. Carly K 2001 says, I love that people don't get that they are in survival mode and need to end that and start living. Mm-hmm. And we have Amo Massage Bodywork says, I always said life was hard, not anymore. Now I'm creating non-hardness. Yes, girl. That's awesome. And Linda Garcia says, I so relate. I've always felt that there was more to life. Yes. And Amo Massage says, wow, so deep. Yeah. And you know, it's funny, Michael, I could totally relate because in my own journey, when I was going through the dark night of the soul, I was always saying, man, there has to be more. There has to be something more, you know? And I was just like, there has to be. This can't be it. This can't be it for me. Like, it can't be all struggle and turmoil and hardship. And while I was going through it, it was so painful. But now that I'm on the other side of it and I look back, I'm so grateful that it all happened exactly how it happened, right?
There's such a, you know, from the perspective of gratitude, ultimately, we can look back on our lives and be like, wow, in that aloneness or in that loneliness, it was all divinely orchestrated. I couldn't see it at the time, but I look back and I'm like, that was divinely orchestrated. And I remember I lived in Rome, Italy for 6 months when I was 20. And I remember the first time I ever walked into St. Peter's, I remember seeing these giant images, these giant paintings, and it's like a mile long. I mean, if you've ever been in the Vatican.
No.
It's so big. And I remember as you walk in, as I walked in, I was like, wow, that is so impressive. It's a quarter mile away and I could see it so clearly. But then as I walked up closer to it, I realized that these giant paintings were actually murals that were only about a half inch. They were mosaics, excuse me, a half inch by a half inch.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, oh my God, that is magnificent. Because if you were to take one of those on their own, you'd be like, this is inconsequential and insignificant, and who cares? But together, you know, put in their proper place and in this almost like divinely orchestrated place, it was one of the most amazing things I had ever seen. And I remember thinking, my life is a lot like that. These little moments on their own, not so significant. Even the struggles on their own, not so significant. But when I look back on my life, I realize like how perfectly all those pieces fit.
Each piece
that had not happened that way,
you wouldn't be here.
Wouldn't be here.
Oh, it's incredible.
Those
it's incredible.
Things, those, like you were saying, that phone call, like we look back, we're like, wow, that was divinely orchestrated. And yet in the moment, you know, the pain seems so real that how will I ever get over this? And somehow the resiliency of the human spirit continues to move us forward through all the challenge.
Oh, resilience. That's actually the name of my self-love program for women.
Oh.
Is resilience. Yes, because I believe that wholeheartedly. It's so true. And what's coming up, huh?
My favorite definition of resilience is when a human being overcomes adversity with their integrity intact.
Ooh. Wow.
That's.
I'm gonna rewind that one and write it down.
I'll text it to you. So important, because there's so many people that go through so many challenges and so many struggles, but resiliency is really where you get to keep your integrity intact, and when you overcome it, now that's where all the magic is.
Oh, amazing. Oh, we have Alonzo Yebar in here, transformational trainer in his own right. We have Henry I am Zin joining in. Welcome, welcome. Michael, what has come up for me with what you were sharing is I just want to give an opportunity for you, for anyone out there who might be in it right now, who might be struggling.
Very briefly, there's a bunch of people asking to repeat that.
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, so resiliency is a human being overcoming adversity or a challenge with their integrity intact.
Okay. Beautiful.
Overcome.
Chris Victoria says, this, so funny, this word was coming up to my mind listening to this before you said it. Hypercube says, when we can fully step into the presence that all we need is right here now, that is when we step into abundance that is so far beyond our ego's wildest dreams. Yes. Solange says, I'm in it right now. So that's where I was leading to, which is like, for those people that are in it right now, who are like, you know, they're in the forest, they can't see the trees, you know, life is imploding, you know, things are hard. I feel that, I understand that, I can empathize with you guys out there because I was there. What would you like to tell them, Michael, or what can you say to them if somebody's going through something hard like that?
First of all, you're human. You're human. You know, the whole human experience is a very large spectrum. And then our capacity to hold opposites is very, very key. So to the degree that I'm willing to, go to this extreme, it gives me the capacity to love in a greater extreme. And I think love isn't the, only rainbows and puppies. Love is really the encapsulation of all emotion and the entire human experience. So first, you're human. Second, seek support. I think that we have so often, especially in men and even masculine conversations, this idea of you need to figure it out on your own and somehow not make any mistakes along the way as you're figuring it out. And I'm like, what for disaster and disappointment? So I always, I'm a huge proponent of seek guidance, seek help, seek support. We are by nature a social creature. And yet we're trying to figure out life on our own. And in that isolation and that loneliness, we cause ourselves harm and sickness and disease. And so what happens is when we try to figure out life on our own, we actually just dig the hole deeper and deeper. Because there's some strangeness to the human experience of on our own. You've got to understand, like our mental garbage makes a lot of sense, but the moment we speak it out to someone that we trust or in a tribe or in a community, the moment we speak it out, we're like, well, that's absurd. Why would I think why would I think that way? Because community, we start to really understand who we are and our significance and our authenticity. We understand all that through our relatedness. And so that's why it's a relationship. It's not a love ship. It's all these relationships. They help us interact and reconnect to our relatedness, to our humanness at a human level. And so on our own, we start to run all that survival, and then it gets deeper and deeper, and then it becomes physiological in our bodies, and then it feels, my gut tightens up and my head gets heavy, and all this, it just makes it feel more and more real. But when we seek support and community and tribe, we can now start to reflect and start to adjust and pivot our relatedness. Because I say this to my men all the time in one of the groups that I run. On our own, we think that our challenges are unique and that our gifts and our skills are common. But when we connect and we create community and we work together in a tribe, we start to realize our challenges are common and our gifts and our skills are unique. And we won't know that, we won't understand that on our own in isolation.
Oh, I hope you guys heard that. That was powerful. And we got a bunch of people saying, yes, we have to get our thoughts out of our heads and face the pain. Hypercube says, this is exactly what I needed. I've been stewing in my own toxic thoughts with no human feedback for so long. Yes, girl, get into community. I feel, and Hoya says, I feel like my 12-year-old is experiencing what Michael went through at 14. If I'm struggling with my own journey towards resilience, how can I be more supportive of my kid without acting fake? Wow, that's a good one. Mm.
Well, do Brian, do
you want to take a stab at that one before we move on?
We can. What Michael went through at 14, well, the chaos, I assume, of the divorce and all that. I think for me, when I look back, I'll speak from my own experience. I am so blessed that my mother allowed me the room to grow and learn and mess up and fall without trying to correct my imperfections. And what I mean by that is when I was 14, when I was going through all of that, I was telling you, like, I really related and found a lot of solace in nature. And my family in New Jersey, we lived on like an acre or an acre and a half in New Jersey. And I built a structure, like a lean-to, like a hut. And I slept out there for a year in my freshman year of high school. and I would go to sleep by campfire every night, and I would read books like the Tao Te Ching and the Bhagavad Gita. I was 14 at the time, but I remember looking back, people are like, what would your mother say? And I no, there's no joke. I would eat dinner. I would grab my sleeping bag and I'd walk outside in December in New Jersey with 8 inches of snow on the ground. Be like, good night, I'll see you. And my mother really encouraged my solace and encouraged my growth and encouraged my exploration. And I would say this, like, if I look back on my life and my mother said, stop doing that, that's strange and that's weird, and be normal, or can't you just fill in the blank, that would have crushed a big part of my growth and my experience at the time. And I look back now and I'm like, thank God she encouraged me to continue to grow and continue to explore and continue to dream. And I knew all the answers, but I also think my mom saw I found solace in that, and she just encouraged that seeking of solace. And now to this day, like, I am so incredibly grateful for that. So I think if my mom had tried to interrupt that or quell it or change it or fix it, it would have, I can guarantee you, it would have backfired.
Beautiful. Amazing. And that brings me to like the metaphor of the seed and the soil. You know, the seed is the masculine energy, the soil is the feminine energy. And when you have the seed in the soil is not like messing it up and bumping into it and moving it and disturbing it and waking it up or whatever. The soil is just holding it exactly as it is and allowing it to grow and express itself.
That's it. And the seed can only be the seed. That's it. It can only,
exactly.
It's the seed can only grow to its DNA. But what creates the growth is the nurturing from that soil. You know, my mother didn't make me or try to make me something that I wasn't. And like I said, I look back on it, and if she had I don't know, the element of rebellion in me, or maybe the people pleaser in me would have been, okay, Mom, you know what? You know better than I. So let me just fall in line. And I think that would have crushed a part of my spirit. And my mother just saw, you know what? You're going through all this. We're going through all this as a family. The entire, our world just went upside down. And so, you know what? You seem like you're finding solace in it. So have at it. And
have at it. Amazing. Amazing. So for those of you that are just logging in who missed the beginning part of the live, just so you know, I'm going to have all these recordings sent to your inbox. If you click on the link in my bio, you can get all this recording with Michael DeSanti, the author of New Man Emerging, and all the recordings of the whole Divine Masculine series in your inbox. So make sure to log in there. Michael, wow. Okay, so I want to jump into a couple of more questions because, you know, we're coming up to the hour soon, and I want to leave a few minutes for the questions that came in earlier. So you mentioned your father in your story, that your father was a pivotal person for you. And, you know, one of my questions is like, have there been men, and are there men now, and have there been men in your journey that have helped you get to where you are and that you might have emulated or you might have learned from as you went on your journey to get to where you are now?
Well, I'll start with my father, because, you know, growing up, my father was, you know, he was my coach. He was my baseball coach. But my greatest influences or influential moments of my life when I was young with my father were always outside in nature. And my father was, you know, he was a northeastern New Jersey Italian guy. And there's a lot of stereotype and, you know, typicalness that comes with that. But my father was the softest and most nurturing when we were in nature and outside. I always think of it this way, like, my father never really talked about God, but when we stood in front of mountains together and we were in the Rockies together, and my father would be like, how could you not believe in God when you look at that? And so for me, that was I looked at my dad, I was like, wow, you're this stoic figure. But nature could bring my dad to like his knees and his humility. And I remember thinking like, wow, this must be powerful then. And my greatest moments with my dad were growing up were outside. And that has played such a big role in my life, because so much of my coaching is actually around natural laws and tapping into nature and the stewardship that we have here, you know, as human beings. So that's a big part. That's such an influential part of my, you know, upbringing. My brothers, I have two older brothers, have been incredibly influential in my life. They taught me a lot of what to do. They've also taught me a lot of what not to do. Being the youngest, I got to navigate a little easier, I think, than they did.
Dodge the bullet.
Dodged a few bullets, figured out some plans along the way of things that they messed up on that maybe I refined a bit. And but they're amazing men. They're deep. They're devoted. They're amazing fathers and husbands. I mean, I was so blessed growing up. Like, how did I get so lucky that, you know, these are the men in my life that I get to be in the trenches with. And then as I got older, I found a lot of solace and a lot of impact from male mentors through some of my Native American work and, you know, sitting in sweat lodges since I was young and things like that really were impactful. And then going through, you know, transformational work, having, you know, we share a mentor, you know, Ray Blanchard, and these men were just absolutely amazing. And what I think they resonated with me and showed me and ignited in me is, you know, the leadership that can be generated through humility, and that it's not always the loudest one in the room that makes the most impact, that anyone could lead with a megaphone, but to lead with a whisper is true power. And I think that was those men, the common theme to me of the men that have really impacted me is really leadership, service, and humility.
Amazing. Amazing. And I love that you said that, because actually in some of the other interviews that we've had with other men, the topic of vulnerability has come up. And so this is a touchy subject for a lot of men. You know, in society, they tend to think that vulnerability is a bad thing and tend to shy away from it. And in these interviews, we've learned a new definition of vulnerability. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to throw your hat in the game and talk about what vulnerability is and how you relate to it as a man.
Vulnerability, the way I see vulnerability, is the intentional dropping of the veil that we think separates us. And so it's deliberate that I share with you authentically and honestly and from a place of my heart, so that we continue to chip away at that wall of what we think, that illusionary wall of what we think separates us. So vulnerability, I have found in my experience, is a great power. Because I said earlier, like, we don't relate through perfection, we relate through humanness. And without vulnerability, it's impossible to connect on a human level, on a deliberately heart-to-heart human level. And so I spent a lot of my life trying to suppress or avoid or, you know, squash my vulnerability. But that was a big part of why my relationships were not working. Because I would have most of the women in my life and in my history would, you know, after my parents' divorce and after, you know, some hardships, my mother had cancer, and when I was younger after the divorce and things like that, a lot of old disappointments had me shut my heart down. And a lot of my survival tactic was to withhold and to shut down and be stoic and show no emotion. And I would have women that I loved and cared about standing in front of me saying, "Give me something." And I had a survival tactic of like, nope, no one's going to disappoint me. I'm not going to leave myself open to be disappointed. And I would, and relationships would deteriorate because of it. And then as I got older and I really started to look at the results in my life, especially around relationships, I realized that vulnerability was actually a strength. It was a power. It was a way of connecting and creating intimacy with the woman that I was with, and which is now my wife. Which now that vulnerability created trust and honor and connectedness and interdependence and all these things that I remember first when my wife and I first got together when we were dating, and I would speak honestly and vulnerably, she'd be like, "Oh, thank you." And to me, that, like, destroyed my worldview, because I was like, no, what do you mean? And she's like, and what it was doing was creating more and more trust. And then what I found is in that vulnerability and in that honesty and in that, it built my integrity, it built my honor. And then I almost became the cycle of wanting to build trustworthiness. And then in that trustworthiness, sharing honestly and directly, and not skirting issues, and just simply being honest about my own experience, it created more and more trust and trustworthiness, which created more connection and more intimacy and deeper levels of connection and more love. And all of a sudden I'm like, wow, how did we end up here? This is amazing.
Wow. Wow. So instead of shying away from your vulnerability, you went into it even deeper, and you stepped into it, and look at everything it opened up for you.
Well, I spent enough of my life shying away from it and then blowing up relationships that I figured, I don't know, maybe the opposite will work. So, and I will say that when I met my wife, I will say that she was worth the risk that I thought being vulnerable was. Because, and I see a lot of your listeners are female, but someone once asked me, what is it most about your wife that drew you in? Because that was scary for me at the time, to be vulnerable and honest. And I said, anytime I ever presented something to her that I was either ashamed or embarrassed of my history, she always met with grace. And it took me and the courage to be vulnerable, but every time she met me with this level of grace that I never really understood or never experienced. And every time she did, I was like, I want to protect her and love her and honor her and respect her even more now. So this is the thing. This is the complete opposite of every relationship I've ever been in. And then I did that, and as that became part of our pattern of the way we communicated and operated and interacted, it wasn't long before we were both like, okay, this is it.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. And some Hypercube says your wife was the soil for that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Amazing. Okay. So with that said, let me ask you this. What are some stigmas or old paradigms that you would like to transform in regards to men? What are some stigmas or old paradigms that you would like to see transformed?
Well, we were touching on it a bit before, which is this like lone wolf, go it alone, figure it all out on your own, and isolate. And in that isolation, we close down our hearts. And so the stigma really is, there is no greatness, there is no achievement, there is no deep success and fulfillment without support, tribe, and brotherhood. And I think that is something that really needs to be interrupted in the psychology and the male or masculine psyche of maybe it's our country, maybe it's worldwide, I can't necessarily say, but I think that is something that really needs intervention. Because if you look at all the, no one has a own. Everyone has had a mentor, a coach, a guide, someone that they looked up to. And I think for me, and I write about this in the book, I think a very fulfilled, powerful man has men at 3 levels of his life. And one level is the men that he looks up to, that he admires, that are his mentors, that are, his elders. Something that they've accomplished that he desires to accomplish, but they get guidance from that level above them. Then men need other men that are in the trenches with them, side by side. They're in the same similar season of life. They're trying to accomplish the same things, or they have maybe share similar challenges, but they're side by side. They're like comrades in the foxhole. And then a man also needs some men that are up and coming, that are below them, that they can support. Maybe they've overcome a challenge that man is currently struggling with. And when men have other men in all 3 of those levels and phases of life, they really have a sense of community and brotherhood. Because if I only have people I look up to, then eventually I'm going to feel like a taker. If I only have people that I support, eventually I'm going to just be exhausted and burned out. Or if everyone is on my level, like life just becomes a competition. I think it's very important that men have other men that they can depend on, rely on, and trust in all three of those levels. So that
Amazing.
Is we must create, seek brotherhood.
Amazing. Wow. That is such a gem of wisdom right there. And let me ask you this, Michael. I mean, I can sit here and talk to you for hours, but I know you have a limited schedule. So what is one message on behalf of men, if you are going to take the baton right now for all men in the world, no pressure. What is one new message on behalf of men that women could benefit from hearing? One new message. You work with men every day. You hear them. You hear what they're saying. What's one new message that women would benefit from hearing from them?
Wow, what a question.
What's been coming out with men? What are they saying? How are they coming across that women would benefit from hearing?
I think I think for a big one is, see through the armor and the facade that we've been taught to wear. Because I think I always say that there's an old Native American saying that the longest journey a man can make is only 14 inches. It's from his head to his heart. And I always say, like, the greatest journey for any man is to become the boy he once was. And I think there's an innocence that is behind that armor and that facade that we've been taught to wear. I don't think it's genuine, and I don't think it's natural, as a matter of fact. I think through disappointments and through what we've learned and through some conditioning, we're taught we must put up this armor to be successful or to achieve or to accomplish. And I, look beyond the armor, because there's an innocent boy in there that is dying to love you, respect you, and honor you, and protect you, and receive that back. And I think that, putting me on the spot, I guess that would be maybe the answer I could come.
and being put on the spot so gracefully. Thank you so much for indulging that. I really, really appreciate it.
Sure.
So, Michael, let me ask you this. Do you have a hard stop at 4? Or do you have a couple more minutes?
I invited my mom for dinner, and I
Perfect. Okay, so you have a hard stop. So then we will dive into these questions then. Beautiful. So, okay, because I really wanted to get to the audience's questions because they sent them over. And so we'll do these like laser, okay? So we could get through a lot of them because there's a few. So Manny Garavito, comedy coach, says, why is masculinity unacceptable in today's society?
I would go back to what I had said earlier. I don't think it's unacceptable. I think toxic masculinity needs to be redefined, because that's just immaturity or a misuse of power. I think
Amazing.
Masculinity itself is more than acceptable and needed. We need both masculinity and femininity.
Beautiful. Curious Micah said, how do you guide another man when you feel like he's fallen out of balance? How do you guide another man when you feel like he's fallen out of balance?
I always put it back on them through questions and through listening. I never assume I know what's best for anyone. So I always ask, what is it that you want? What do you really desire? And I let their own inner wisdom really start to lead the conversation. And then I always bring it back to, well, you said this was important to you. So therefore, what's in the way of that? And what would support you, getting closer and closer to it? But I never preach or tell anyone this is what you should do. I never assume I know what's best for someone. So always ask high mileage questions that really unravel some of their thinking, that they could come to their own wisdom on their own, but you're just kind of their guide. But always start with what is their commitment, what's their priority, what is it that's important to them.
Amazing. All right. Om Sessions, she's an amazing sound healer. She sent a question that says, there is still so much we are integrating about masculine and feminine, becoming aware of them and learning, etc. How can we be more efficient in integrating and balancing both on an energetic level to manifest?
The bridge between those two, masculinity and femininity, is presence. Without presence, these are all just fancy words. So presence is what allows us, in my book, I write the question, what is this moment calling forth from me? And we must access presence, the choice to be here and now, and really gauge that from this moment, what's required of me? What's this moment calling forth from me? And sometimes life is calling forth the hammer, masculinity, and sometimes life is calling forth the rose, femininity. But if you're just on automatic and on survival, and life is calling forth the rose, and you're just on survival swinging a hammer, you're going to break things. But if life is calling forth masculinity, the hammer, discipline, structure, perseverance, stick-to-itiveness, and you just are waving a rose around, like, you're going to be ineffective. So what bridges the gap is presence, to be able to be still and present in the moment and say, okay, right now my life is calling forth discipline, or my life is calling forth trust and surrender, grace, faith. Well, it requires presence.
Beautiful. A lot of people are asking, where can we buy the book, Michael?
Amazon. Yeah,
Amazon. The New Man Emerging by Michael DeSanti.
It's on Amazon.
Beautiful. For those of you who are joining in now, just so you know, if you want the recording of this interview, click on the link in my bio and I will send it to your inbox. All right, beautiful. Next question from Ilona Pamplona, who's an amazing astrology coach. She asked, how does a woman in her divine feminine hold space for a man who is on the path of becoming the divine masculine?
I think, continue to do your work. Continue to support your own journey. And I think in the relationship, I always say in relationship, like, I'm not, and this sounds strange, I think, for some people, but I don't serve my wife, I serve our marriage. And I serve our marriage by doing my own work, by supporting her in her work, but I serve the unit. And as I do my own work, I free up a space for her to do her work, and then we strengthen the abundance and the prosperity between us. It's not her job to fix me or fill me or correct me or make me happy. It's simply not. It's an impossible task, by the way. My job to fill my own cup, my wife's job to fill her cup, and then we share the overflow and the abundance in between. But this idea of this Jerry Maguire, like, you complete me, I think we're setting each other up for failure there. And so I always say, like, let me do my own work, stay to my own path, and as I do that, I create a space for my wife to tap into her own journey, her own level of becoming, her own growth and evolution, and that I think, and serve the unit. And as you serve the unit, we naturally serve each other. But I think when we serve the individual, and I marry people all the time. I'm a minister. I marry couples all the time. And I always say, like, don't necessarily commit to each other, commit to growing. And then the growth and the commitment to the unit, it takes care of serving and committing each other.
Incredible. Incredible. Someone wrote in, what if your partner is neglecting themselves in certain ways? How do you support them, telling them what to do without telling them what to do? I think you were just touching on that.
Yeah, exactly. Be an example. And I always ask, like, what do you want? What is it that you're after? What do you want? I don't want to assume I know what's best for anyone.
Exactly.
And I always listen.
Exactly. And I love that you said that about the cup. I teach that in my resilience program. Somebody asked earlier when my next resilience program is. Just, you can apply on my website to be, I started on a looping basis. So there's not a set start date. So just go to miosantana.com/self-love and you can fill out the application for the resilience program. And someone says, buy him the book. Yes, good idea. Buy him the book and all his answers will be there. All right. So Irakaushi actress asked, we know that between man and woman, misunderstanding is huge. What do you think is the key of understanding each other and taking the things like they really are?
Oh, wow. I mean, masculine, femininity, and men and women, we speak different languages. And I think that it's important in relationship that we learn each other's language. Now, I'm going to completely generalize right now, but men tend to listen from a place of what's the point or what's the problem, and women tend to listen from let's share to connect. And sometimes there is no point, and sometimes there is no problem. So we've got to learn each other's languages. So, and there's a lot of communication. I say this all the time. I don't think couples fail due to lack of love. I think couples fail mostly due to miscommunication. So I think as we are learning each other's languages, like we have to have a willingness to learn language. And I'm pretty literal, and my wife will sometimes share just to share. And I will straight up ask my wife if she has a challenging day or she needs to vent or anything like that. I will ask my wife, do you need support or do you need solutions? And there's a lot. Most of the time, my wife's like, just listen. I'm like, oh, great. Yeah, I could do that. That's fine. Have at it. Go nuts. And then most of the time, as my wife is sharing, she's like, oh, forget it. I'm done. Oh, okay. And then we're on to the next thing. But if I try to go in with solutions and my wife just needs an ear, then it's insensitive. But there's also times when my wife is like, no, I need my coach right now. I need to tell me what I'm not seeing. I'm like, oh, okay, great. So in that communication, what we're doing is, in that effective communication, we're giving each other a blueprint on how to love each other best. And if we don't give each other a blueprint through our communication, the best we can do is guess. And most of the time, we're probably going to be wrong. We're going to be off. We'll be inaccurate. And so we give each other a blueprint. And that's important in relationship. We must give each other a blueprint on how to love each other. Mm. And a lot of that has to do with, effective communication.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, Michael, thank you so much. This has been incredible. I mean, you guys take notes, catch the recording in the link in my bio so you can replay it and rewind and write all the notes down, because this was just incredible. Michael, we have some questions left. Maybe I can send them to you and you can reply to them in your own time, and I can post them up on the stories. So keep an eye out for that. You can get Michael's book on Amazon, The New Man Emerging. It's an incredible read. He does men's retreats. He does men's work. One of my friends, Fernando, is actually in your men's program right now as we speak. He says it's amazing. Another friend of mine, Luis Jimenez, which I interviewed yesterday, he sends his best to you. He did your program a couple years back, and he says it's amazing as well. So guys, we have just been honored and blessed to have Michael today here with us. Thank you so much, Michael. I'm so grateful.
Thank you. I'm humbled to be part of your journey, a small part of your journey. Thank you for the opportunity to serve your listeners and you. And I'm so proud of you and everything that you're up to. So keep at it. The best is yet.
Yes, amazing. Thank you so much, Michael. I love you. Everyone out there, be kind to yourselves. Be kind to one another. I love you. Get the link in my bio. Get the recordings. And Michael, all the best. I will see you soon. Keep it up. You're amazing.
You'll be well.
Love you. Bye, guys.